Hi, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
All good, sir. How are you?
Very well. I hope you can see me and hear me
Yes,
properly.
sir, definitely. You're very clear. So, first of all, I would like to thank you to be a part of this session. We are honored to have you on our platform as a speaker, or you can say that you can share your thoughts to our audience. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that wonderful poster you did.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
I'm
sir.
really truly humbled. Thank you so much. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me here. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So, before starting, I would like to introduce you to the audience who are watching us. So, first of all, I would like to tell everyone that I personally believe that you are the great person to talk to, and you are someone who can really, give back to the society with your personal thoughts and the kind of lifestyle you have. Like being an architect, you still manage to do what you love. Like you are flute artist, you are in painter as well. So can you tell the audience how you manage to do so many things like in so much busy schedule?
I don't know how to answer that question actually. So when I graduated, in 2009, so I was in this dilemma that whether to exclusively practice architecture or do I also continue practicing, the interests that I have. So then I decided, okay, let me put myself under experimentation. So let me give it a shot and do everything that I want to do. And truly, by interest and by God's grace, it has been a journey by which I have been able to, manage things parallelly. Just by a certain level of discipline and time management, I think you can do everything that you want to do. So this is something very interesting that I learned over the years that, there is something called as food for the body, right?
Yes, sir.
But we seldom talk about the food for the soul. So if
Definitely.
you identify what is the food for the soul, so then the soul will demand whatever you feed the soul. Just like the body demands food when you feed the body with food, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you start feeding yourself with whatever you want to do, the body will start demanding. So
Yes,
then it becomes simple.
definitely. Sir. Because as we have heard that architecture is a very different career choice. It is very difficult for architecture students to manage their life and their study. But when we look up at you, you are doing architecture, you are doing many other things, and you are very good at balancing everything, like so
Thank
beautifully.
you.
Like you do the painting within your home designs, your architectural designs. We have seen it like you are doing everything so beautifully. Like, how do you manage it? Like, people want to know that what is something that triggered the idea of doing everything all at once.
Okay, so it's a very interesting question actually. I always wanted to paint along with practicing architecture. And then we've always been reading about architects like Corbusier, who have managed, making paintings while they were practicing architecture. So I started looking up to these architects and understanding how did they manage. So let me use this platform to share for people who do not know. Corbusier used to come to his office, post lunch. So the first hour he would sit and paint and then read books. So I took that as a cue. So I thought if a master like him can do it, maybe at least I can try. Then I started identifying what are those opportunities that I can put myself into that make me paint. So then I started voluntarily started gifting paintings to my clients, and I started telling them that, if you get this house done by me, I'll give you 3 paintings for free.
Okay, so it was your
So
marketing strategy.
yeah,
So you were like providing people with the free painting.
yeah. So what started happening towards the end of the project when the client said, no, I need 3 paintings as committed, so I had to make paintings. So that became like an external compulsion. So to satisfy my starvation to paint,
Yes.
and so this is how it has been happening, and I hope I
It
continuously
added
keep on.
some like sort of a pressure on you that you have to
Yeah,
paint. You have to do
absolutely.
that. Yeah,
See, unless you have an external compulsion, you will not do what you want to do.
definitely.
So let's say if you want to lose weight, unless there is a pressure, on top of you, you will not lose weight. There has to be a reason for what you want to do. So you yourself create a reason for you to get yourself into an act of doing something, you know. So these are few of the methods that I try to follow, and
Time
same with
management,
music. Yeah, yeah,
management, marketing strategies, and
yes,
everything came up with you
yes,
while you get everything aligned that you want to satisfy your clients and yourself as
yes. Yeah, I mean, definitely, you will have to develop a marketing strategy, but marketing strategy cannot happen at the cost of hard work. No,
well.
first
Yes,
you will have to be good at making paintings also.
yes, sir, definitely.
So, so, so it's like a sequence. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So coming to the questions that we have from our audience, so I'll be asking you a few questions. So my first question is, what is the role of an architect in a construction project? Like, for example, many people have a mindset that I don't need an architect. I don't need an architect. So how do you define a role of architect in construction project?
It's a good question actually. So the question is that, let's say, if even if you have a design in hand, and if you have a construction management team, a project management team at site, why do you really need an architect? No. So so I had raised this question sometime back to some of my seniors, and I got a beautiful answer. The answer takes a dive into philosophy, but I think that's what makes architecture so beautiful. So he said that there are primarily two kinds of thinkers. One are divergent thinkers, one are convergent thinkers.
Yes, sir.
So convergent thinkers are the ones who can think of a bigger idea and zoom down to a smaller detail.
Yes,
And divergent thinkers are the ones who can start from a smaller detail and enlarge it to a bigger detail. So divergent thinkers are like artists and dancers and poets.
sir.
You know, an artist can start with making a tree and then start adding landscape and trees and clouds. And convergent thinkers are scientists, you know, who can think of a bigger idea and then zoom it down to a smaller formula. But there's a third category which are called architects, who can be both divergent and convergent thinkers, and that is where the role of architect comes in, you know, construction management, because they're the ones who can zoom into the smaller detail, understanding sequences of construction, and at the same time not miss the overall philosophy of the project. Because if you are only engaged into the technicalities of a project, there is a very high possibility that you miss out on the eventual philosophy or the overall idea that the project has to zero into.
Yes,
So that is where architect keeps that balance.
yes.
So this is why I feel architects are, you know, required
So actually,
to answer a question.
people think that I have a very small space to design, or I have a very small space to design my home. So I don't need an architect. I can just hire somebody so he can give me a proper layout of how should I design. So they actually think that hiring an architect for a very smaller space is going out of the budget. They think that hiring an architect is very like going out way out of your budget. So can you brief
Yeah,
about this?
I think I think we architects ourselves are responsible for that image that we have in the society. You know, like architect Doshi used to say that when a client comes to you, you need to imagine a dream and then give that dream to the client.
Yes, sir.
So when you offer a bigger dream to the client understands that this is something that I could not imagine.
Yes,
The architect is helping me imagine a bigger dream. Most of the situations, what happens, the client believes that this is the biggest possibility within a space in terms of giving an experience. You know, when that is not true actually. So if an architect undergoes the rigorous process of, you know, getting into the habit of, you know, imagining that bigger dream and offering that to the client, then the client will understand why, you know, an architect is
why
required,
he
even if it's like a small
yes,
space. You know, even if it's a small space, it is not just about making a layout. It is how do you bring in a larger than life experience. You
yes,
know, that is where architects are expected to bring that expanded and higher experience. So I know it takes time for an architect to make that understand to a client, but that primarily is the reason why an architect is required.
So
And
actually,
yeah,
the client has the mindset. It is a mindset of the client that I just have a very small space, so I can get it designed by anyone. I don't need to get it done by an architect or any professional architect because, like, you are a very known architect. So people have the mindset that if I reach out to this architect, he will be cost a huge amount for just a very small job that can be done by anybody. So this is what kind of people have mindset with them.
yeah, I mean, see, eventually the only other way out is that you'll have to let them try by doing it by themselves.
Yes, yes,
So an architect not only gives a heightened experience by doing a project, an architect also contributes in bringing value addition. So for what cost the best value comes into the space. So
yes,
that
yes,
is where the expertise of an architect comes in. So I think it is very important that you start interacting with your clients and explain them why you are required. There is no harm actually. You can sit down and educate them. This is where an architect comes in.
yes,
Say for example, if you go to an Apple store and you buy an iPhone, you don't go and tell that fellow that this is an iPhone. This is made up of glass and metal. Glass costs this much, metal costs this much. This can be made in 25,000, 20,000. You don't do that. You don't question that, right? Why? Because you are fairly aware about the experiences that an iPhone can give you in comparison to any other phone.
definitely.
Or for that matter, if you go to a doctor where the situation is life and death, you don't question the doctor for their subscription because the question is life and death. The
Yes, yes,
problem is that architecture is not life and death. Architecture is afterlife. It is the experience that you can give after life. So
yes,
that is where client becomes very complacent and comfortable. Now I can do everything myself. So the client is not aware what is a higher level of experience that can be achieved within a space. So you will have to work extra harder as an architect and spare more time. You will have to sometimes give them sketches and show them imageries. This is what can be done at the cost of your time and money. That is something that you will have to do initially to win that level of faith and trust. You know.
yes. So, sir, as we are talking about the budget, so can you explain like how an architect charges, like how an architect decides like how to charge or when to charge or according to services or according to his own, satisfaction or something?
See, this is where the answer is very subjective actually. There are multiple ways in which architects charge their fee. Many a times it is like per square feet system where you calculate the overall built up area, covered area, and then you charge. But there are methods in which you can charge also. So for example, what we do generally is we link our payment schedules and installments with the construction stage. Now that is like a chance we take. So we tell our clients that you pay us as per the stages of finishing on site. So that helps client develop a bigger level of faith in us.
Yes,
So it is not that we complete our drawings and then we are done with it, and we take our fees and then that's about it. So if you link your payments with construction stages, you extend your help to the client, telling them that we are not here only to make drawings. We are there with you till the very end of the project. And
yes,
this is something that we have been following. Many a times there are challenges because the projects can take a longer to complete. But 99% of the cases, it is a very successful method that we have been following.
yes. Thank you, sir. And so coming back to the topic of our session, like technology and architecture. Like you have been into this field of architecture for very long. So you would have seen like how technology has been affecting the field of architecture. Is it in a good way or is it in a bad way or somehow it is affecting uh, you know, the creativity of an artist?
See, it is the way you take technology as. there are amazing examples like architect Zaha Hadid,
Yes,
who considered technology as a tool. See, in the older times, a pencil was considered as a tool to create, right?
yes,
So there's a very interesting book by Bill Hillier. It's called Space Syntax, and he talks about the fact that there are tools that you think with, and there are ideas that you think of. So the tools that you're using to think of an idea uh, is very important, and it can be any tool. You can use a pencil to create uh, anything that you can imagine, but you will have to master the technique of using the pencil also.
yes,
So if you can use the if you can use technology as a mere tool, which Zaha Hadid did, or so many other architects are doing, then and provided you master the tool to the level that you don't have to think about the tool while creating, it comes naturally to you. Say for a very simple example, in the previous days there used to be no AutoCAD, right?
yes,
Now architects are very fluent in making AutoCAD drawings, and they are also making and breaking the design.
yes, sir.
So so AutoCAD now is a tool by which you can not only draw but you can also create. So I think it is a matter of giving yourself time enough to master a tool, and then you can use it however you see however you want to use the technology to your advantage, rather than having a resilience to technology. I would say rather you embrace technology to a good level, to a level where you stop thinking about technology and you start using it as an expression to bring out an expression of architecture.
Definitely.
So this is one example. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So right now I'll be going to our very second segment, that is myth or facts. I'll be asking you a few questions, so you would have to tell me either it is a myth or a fact. So the very first is all architects are experts in all types of buildings. Either it's a myth or a fact.
Do I need to answer it in one word or can I elaborate?
You can elaborate as because we need our audience to understand what kind of question is it is.
Okay. So uh, see, it is both actually. I'll support my answer in the form of giving few analogies. See, what happens is when you graduate, you start trying your hands into various this thing types of buildings. Okay, then what happens is you explore smaller projects, you explore bigger projects, you explore high scale and smaller projects in details, etc., etc. So once you get a hang of it, then you sometimes what you do tend to do is that sometimes you tend to follow the path of doing only small projects. You start liking getting into details, and you start liking the experiential part of architecture. So you want to do that.
Yes,
And sometimes what happens, you get fascinated by the scale of architecture. So you want to do a bigger scale projects. So you tend to do only bigger scales. But there are examples of architects like Charles Correa. When I was working in Ahmedabad with architect Doshi, I was amazed to see that an architect who has done a Sardar Patel Stadium is also an architect who has done a small bus stop, in Navrangchapura station.
okay.
So, so if you get your principles and fundamentals right, then you can, stretch the limits. Then you can do as small as doing a bus stop and as big as, a stadium. So there are examples where architects have done both. But then there are examples on the other hand side. For example, architects like Laurie Baker or Kevin Lowe, who have found a niche of doing things in a certain way. So they've found their comfort and expertise in a certain format. So they explore that.
Like it,
So it's
if
all
you have
about trying. Yeah,
if you have the right skill, if you have the creativity in your hands, you can do anything. Like sky is the
absolutely. See,
limit for that person.
abs- absolutely. See, if the fundamentals are correct, no, then you can do whatever uh, you feel like doing. Then you can explore.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is that architects are too expensive for small projects, as we have discussed earlier in the budget question. So, like as I told you, it is the mindset of people that they think that hiring an architect for small projects is too much expensive. So it is.
See, see, the architects are one of those professions where we kind of offer two kind of services. One as a service provider, the other one, the other offering is offering that bigger dream. So if you miss out on one of these, then your job is half done. You cannot only show an optimistic image in front of the client and then not pick up phones and not deliver drawings on time. Or on the other way around, you cannot be just good service provider, delivering drawings on time and your details are all correct, but there is no good idea, there is no bigger idea.
Yes,
So if you are ready as an architect to take the responsibility of offering a bigger dream at the same time being a good service provider, it takes a harder job. Now, to answer your question, that the clients are generally hesitant, to pay the architects, it is because they are not aware of these facts. Nobody introduced these facts in front of them. Architects generally had, in the past, reduced themselves to being only service providers.
yes,
So nobody talks about creating stories in architecture.
yes,
Nobody talks about the philosophies of architecture.
that's
And still, I must thank MMH for creating this platform where we can talk about this. There are very few platforms. There should be more platforms where we can talk about architecture, as a medium to generate higher level of experience. So
yes,
see, it will take time. The once clients are aware of it,
yes.
I am sure things will change, and things are changing.
It is definitely like you need to combine professionalism and creativity together
Yes,
to build great things. That you need to satisfy your
absolutely.
client with the both of the aspects.
True, true, true.
Right? So now we are heading up to our Q&A session. So it is like it would be like a rapid fire round. So you need to answer very quickly. So it is like first question is explain architecture in one word.
Architecture in one word, I would say architecture is configuration.
So can you please
It
explain it?
okay. So there are two words in English. One is display, and the other word is exhibit. What is the difference between displaying something and exhibiting something? Displaying is disarrangement, and exhibiting means you set elements in a certain order that looks composed in front of the eyes. So architecture is not display, it is a configuration of certain elements together that gives a larger than life experience. I mean, it is very difficult to reduce the definition of architecture in one word, but this could be, in a nutshell.
Configuration it is.
Configuration, everything should look configured. So if you see around, no, everything is haywire, no, elements are all haywire.
Yes,
Nothing was organized. So, so a person who configures things in a manner that you can go inside, like you're going inside a sculpture. So that could be architecture.
yes, definitely. Thank you, sir. So next, any tip for the architecture students?
My tip for the architecture students would be you must get into the habit of documentation. So when I say documentation, what I mean to say is you start being conscious about your likings and dislikings. You start drawing, start sketching, write your experiences of the day, the spaces that you see in your notebook. Maintain a habit of maintaining sketchbooks and drawing. You start today and you will see results in 2 years. So that is something that I don't see people doing around. But this is something which is, I think, very important. You start documenting your experiences and noting them down. This will reflect in your architecture.
Actually, right now, architecture students are very much focused. They are having some kind of, they say they are very pressured. They are very pressured by those assignments. They need to do their diagrams, their designs, and everything. So they are very much like they don't know how to balance their life and their studies. So any tip for them to balance both of them?
Actually, somehow, you know what, I feel sorry for the students of architecture in today's time because they have this big bug in the form of social media that has become a distraction.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can use it in a very positive way, the way we are using it now. But most of the times I've seen that they are generally distracted because of this, and they are not open to look around and directly get in person and getting in conversation in person. So, so that is one thing. If they can manage that, bring in more discipline, and try and get into the habit of uh, drawing and not only stay dependent upon softwares because drawing helps you internalize a space. I have not discovered any other medium so far other than sketching and drawing by which you can start internalizing dimensions. So when I say internalizing means, see, when you are using computers, it is all parametric, right?
Yes.
I can type certain dimensions and the building and the wall will raise to a certain height. When I say internalization means if I hold a pencil and draw a wall of let's say 2.5 meters, my hand should stop exactly at 2.5 meters. That is the level of internalization that has to be done. And I don't know any other medium other than drawing. I am a bit old school from that perspective, but this is my suggestion and advice to students of architecture.
According to you, drawing and it all helps to build up your skills as well. It like
Absolutely.
your brain runs like in a creative mind. It turns your mind into creative mind. You think creativity and you work with it as well. Because as AI
Yeah.
has stepped into every field right now, so they are like every student. I won't say architecture student, but every student is now dependent on AI and those other platforms to help them with their homeworks or their assignments. So it is quite, I think so, a backlash that today people are facing with their careers and studies.
Yeah. See, the problem of AI is basically it gives you. See, what does AI do? AI will give you answers that you have fed into AI. Okay. But what is it that AI cannot do? AI cannot. AI doesn't have emotions. AI doesn't have references. AI cannot create stories. So, in order to bring out something from AI, you have to feed something to AI. Now, how will you feed something to AI when you yourself do not know what to feed?
Yes.
And in order to know what to feed, you will have to go through all these rigorous programs, like I
Yes.
said. See, there are two ways. One is that you do something on AI and AI gives you a, very flashy kind of a result. But the question here is AI giving you what you imagined, or are you using AI to understand what are the possibilities? So you don't let AI, rule over you. You have to dictate AI, and then you embrace AI in, receiving multiple options, multiple iterations. But you have to dictate AI.
Like we need to learn first before we need to work on AI. Firstly, we need to
Yeah.
learn ourselves if we need to
Yeah.
tell AI to work for us.
Yes, yes, yes. What are the right questions to ask the AI that you have to understand? You have to practice asking the
Definitely.
questions, right questions. Yeah,
Maybe it is like if you don't know even the spellings of architecture, you can't tell it to, you know, you can't
yeah,
ask for the definition of architecture if you don't even know the spellings of architecture. It is
yes,
as
absolutely.
very. So my next question is, whom do you refer to as your idol in the industry?
So I had this good fortune to work with architect Balkrishna Doshi in 2010. So I would say none other than architect Doshi. So we had an amazing time working with him and listening to him during his talks. And I've got all his instructions and teachings noted into my diaries till date. Other than him, I had great opportunities to have conversations with architects like, Sanjay Mohe Bijoy Ramachandran in Bangalore, and many in Ahmedabad as well, whom I idolize, and try and bring their teachings into application.
Thank you, sir. So my last question would be architecture industry as a career. Let me explain my question. So many people who are just finishing their 12th and they are thinking of opting architecture as their career. So how do you feel like architecture is as a career? Is it a good choice or it is meant for people who are creative minds or are like want to work with the structures and the buildings?
See, there is no denial that to practice architecture, you certainly need a very high level of passion and interest. But at the same time, I want to also tell that this high level of passion and interest can also be induced inside you if you don't have it at the first level. Okay. So if you get yourself into the right context, in the right environment, and in the hands of right guides and teachers, there is a possibility that you develop that high level of passion and interest. I have seen so many of my contemporaries, they were not really interested into architecture during the initial years and are doing so very well now because they were at the right place at the right time, learning from right people. So this is my suggestion. So this is my, perspective from that context. Secondly, uh, the moment you develop that interest in architecture, so this is something so beautiful that my teacher told me, why should one practice architecture, or why, what is so special about architecture? You see, architecture is the only profession where you can imagine and create on such a large canvas on the expense of somebody else.
Definitely, it
So
is.
so you see, if an artist who is a painter, let's say, if he wants to create a painting,
Yes,
he will have to go to the market, buy colors, buy canvases, buy brushes, do the capital investment, and then create a work of art, and then bring it into the public realm for its sale.
yes.
Whereas an architect gets everything sponsored from day one.
You
So
can
he's
brush
basically
your
having
skills
fun.
on the expense of your clients or somebody who has
Yes.
asked you for the favor.
Yeah, but don't take your client for a ride, okay? You have, this comes at a very high responsibility. If you fail to be doing your job responsibly, then your canvases can be taken away at any point, and you can be kicked out also.
Yes,
So
definitely.
then this is like one point. The second point is architecture is the only medium in which, or only profession where only you can see the invisible and nobody else around can see the invisible. Do you get me?
No,
No.
please explain.
So imagine a situation when you are, sitting in front of the clients and you have created something on the paper, and in front of your eyes things are crystal clear. You can already see the building in front of you when the building is not there,
Yes, sir.
and the clients and people around you cannot imagine that building when the building is in front of you. So it's like a very surreal experience. You can see a wall painted red when the wall is not there. Nobody can see that red wall, only you can see as a
It is
creative
definitely
profession.
like the creative minds
Yeah,
are needed. Like we are not from the architectural field, so it is very difficult for us to define the architectural drawings. Like where is it? How can somebody define like how this drawing is made by a person who
yeah,
has everything designed in his own mind. So he is the
true,
person who can, it is the layout. He is the one who is going to define everything for their client or the person they are working with. So it
true,
is
true, true.
definitely the creative mind, running your mind in a
Absolutely.
creative way or destructive way. It is all up to us, like if
Yes,
we want to
yes.
work. So
Yeah, I suggest everybody should become architects.
yes, sir, definitely. Because there was a question, what would world look like if there were no architects?
What would world look like if there were no architects? The world would look disconfigured, like I explained earlier.
Yes,
The idea is to configure everything. So if there were no architects, there'll be chaos.
like it will
Architects bring order into the built environment, If there were no architects, there will be absolute chaos.
Like it would be just the display, not the exhibit.
Absolutely, you got it right. True, 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 true.
Yes, yes. So it was from my end. So do you have anything to say to the audience or somebody?
I mean, I think we've discussed almost everything fruitful, and thank you for asking me questions like, you know, my suggestion to the students of architecture, and so that's about it. I mean, just keep stay excited, you know, be interested in life, read books, draw, you know, pursue a parallel expression. It is very important. Find out what interests you along with architecture, and do not stop finding those interests. Keep on finding those interests. Do not settle down with okay, अब architecture की degree आ गई है तो अभी buildings बनानी है. There is nothing. There is nowhere on the blackboard created by God written that if you have a degree then you have to produce only buildings. You can keep doing things outside architecture, and eventually whatever you do outside architecture reflects back onto architecture. So whatever parallel interests you pursue act as you know, as a catalyst to architecture. So my suggestion is, if you are practicing architecture, do something parallel to architecture. You whatever you do, cooking, you bake, you, I don't know, you write, you do carpentry, make a chair, write something, go shopping, watch movies, do all these things with all the interest,
Yes,
and in, you know, with all the investment of time.
like we need to
So this is my,
balance the
yeah,
balancing.
yeah.
So we have a question from our viewer, Sai Kiran. It is how to learn material combination of interior.
I didn't get how to learn material composition.
Combination of interior. Material combination of interiors.
Material combination of interiors. Okay. So see, it depends like what is the storyline of an interior project. Okay. What context do you want your interior to be based in? Is it based in an earthy environment? Is it based in a very formal looking environment? So what is the storyline? So the moment, first of all, you develop a storyline. Okay. So once the storyline is developed, you know, the material composition is all followed. So to give an example, I suggest you see one of our very special projects, which is very close to our hearts. It's called the Mondrian's Volume.
Okay.
So you can find it on our, you know, websites and Instagram. So it was like an office interiors that we had to do in a very small size of, I think, 16 feet by 40 feet depth. Okay. So the title of the you know, of the project we called Mondrian's Volume. So we imagined a story that if Mondrian, the great artist, if he was alive today and he created a space through which we could walk. Mondrian was a visual artist; he painted, you know, okay.
Yes.
But if he was an architect and he created a space in such a way that you could walk through his paintings, if that was the experience, then how would the space look like? So then we introduced these color tinted glass planes in the middle, and created you know, dark black vitrified tiles on the floor and hammered finish tiles on the walls. We kept everything around very understated, making sure that you walk through these colored planes. So so if the storyline is decided, no, then making a color palette, a material palette becomes very easy. But for instance, if you start forcing yourself only to create a material palette or a mood board, then you will keep struggling with Pinterest and Google images, and you will still not get it. So, you know, that is where you will fall flat on your face. So my suggestion is that you become imaginative. So this is where I said, you know, start writing. If you start writing, you know, all these ideas will start coming.
Okay.
So this is my answer to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for answering all the questions. It was very fruitful session. Thank you from my end, from MMH team. And if you have something to say, please.
I am extremely delighted, and I am so happy that I am on this platform of MMH. I want to thank MMH and the entire team for allowing me to speak and share my views. I hope my views reach out to as many as possible.
Sure.
And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. And
Thank you. Have a nice day.
all
Bye.
thanks from all. Bye, sir.
Bye.